Well, hello, folks. I want to go through this Donald J. Trump's video, post this live I'm doing. And I saw Donald J. Trump's video. It's in the news now, in the last hour even. And it's gut wrenching for us at the B7 Summit, our Never Say Never presentation for Canada, the 51st state, the business case. We go into the Iron Dome. That was Donald J. Trump's 2017 name for it. He didn't go massive in this, but I knew this to be what he wanted. And when COVID came up, that was a keynote of what was to be the B7 that we're going to see rolled out in this coming G7 in Alberta, where no real Albertans are going to be, or let alone any real Canadians. Just like the B7 Summit, mostly politicians, double crossers, double speakers. Now, everybody, Donald J. Trump gives a frank statement, a roll your eyes, but it's also a message for us 51st staters, directly at me and directly at those who were at the B7 Summit with me that day. You all saw my presentation, and folks watching now, read my presentation. I published this, you can see May 16th, was actually weeks before that. I go into the Iron Dome as Canada, the 51st state, how we would make this happen. I go into the economic, security, and of course, Arctic truth, how we can do this together. We're stronger together. Canada, the country, Canadians, you can't afford the Golden Dome, as Trump has now renamed it. But I nailed it, not François, Philippe Champagne, not Mark Carney, and certainly none of the politicians. They took our May 16th presentation as America got it. You're seeing everybody talk about it. You're even seeing Canada, the 51st state, mentioned again. And Donald J. Trump, when he rolls his eyes on this, there is no way, Canadians, you are currently at $2.66 trillion federal debt. That's your federal debt. Far lower than the United States of America, but under the Golden Dome, the country of Canada will be tit for tat. That's the promise. Tit for tat, your federal debt loading that Donald J. Trump has to do right now. He's bringing monumental investment. He's brought down inflation. And in fact, the American dollar's come down, and now interest rates are high. The central bank, Federal Reserve, must act, but they're not acting. They're resisting Trump. They're violating the American system. They're violating Americans who deal with the high interest when the economics say not. Now, Mark Carney, too, is one of those. So is Champagne, his finance minister, another baloney, telling all Canadians now today, as he promised Donald J. Trump, they will pay the $1.2 trillion, folks. Donald J. Trump can have that up in 3 years before he's out of power. That means Canada, all of your entire debt collected, most of which since 1980, a big whopping sum from the era of 2000, which also references when budgets became nothing, when politicians from 2000 onward either not releasing budgets or annual releasing budgets and then throwing them away by the fall, meaning getting them passed in the parliament that's fused. It's basically an acting stage for all Canadians. Well, they completely push it through, pass it, and then completely do the opposite. This has been both the Conservatives and Liberals. And then not presenting a budget at all by COVID, and then continuing giving economic statements, no budget, no real budget. Then moving back to budget, but again, fall replacements after getting it passed in Parliament, meaning U.S. Congress is in charge of money, but Parliament of Canada fused with the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister decides what's spent or what's not spent, what parts of the Constitution should be honoured or not honoured, what amendments are in place or not in place. We're seeing this. It's a big joke. Canada's a big, ugly, autocratic, electoral autocracy joke. Always has been, but now liberals are so comfortable and confident that they're just going to be honest about it. Look, Canadians, who cares about your highest laws? We never taught you how to read them anyway, and we're just going to throw them aside. We tell everybody in the world whatever they want to hear. We lie, as they're lying to Donald J. Trump. There's no economic case for Canada contributing size of our country as the way our country is designed, committing in 3 years to building this golden dome with the United States, taking half of it on for the country of Canada. Half, because that's what you have to do. And sure, that'll make Donald J. Trump happy, but it was only viable as a 50th state of the, or 51st state of the Union. And let me explain, Americans understand. Their federal budget goes heavy into defense, meaning everybody contributes equally per capita, not the states themselves. Sure, they'll back it up with their national forces. They'll do that. Their militias that are the National Guard at the state level, each state comparable to its size and its GDP, sure. But the federal's the federal and the taxes. Now, the Canadian government's saying, we're going to pay that half that would have been shared amongst all 50 states. We're going to pay the whole half. We're Canada. We're going to beat the hell out of our subjects to do it. Now, honestly, everybody, all you have to do is look at NATO. When they say something outrageous like that, when they steal our 51st state intellectual property, my intellectual property, they say, hey, we'll match that. Donald J. Trump, stop talking about the 51st state. We'll match that claim as a state, even though that's viable. And we've never honored anything, not NORAD, not NATO, not nothing. We've actually devalued it. When we make a deal with you, we actually do the opposite. After we make an agreement with you, just like taxpayers in Canada, we go opposite. Just like roll out a budget now, a Timbit at Tim Hortons. It was funny. It was very funny what Pete Hoekstra said. And sure, you can do that. Americans, Donald J. Trump rolls his eyes, but he's going to go forward with it. He's going to give Canada that chance to hang themselves. So what do you suppose when Canada commits to a $1.2 trillion 3-year deal with the United States, meaning our federal debt borrowed against Canadian taxpayers will be equivalent to what the U.S. federal debt is right now under Donald J. Trump, way out in the red. That's where Canada's going to be. We're going to move that way federally. And I can assure you all Canadians, when you look at corporate debt to GDP ratio, we way outpace the states. When you look at state debt to GDP ratio versus provincial territorial debt to GDP ratio, we far outpace them. Municipalities far outpace them. Household debt to GDP ratio, Canadians far, far outpace Americans. We are well on our way to bankruptcy. This is not achievable as the country of Canada. Not in this system, not with these middlemen at the provincial and territorial level. Middlemen and middlewomen, doesn't matter. Federally, absolutely not. We're bloated, we're big, we're huge, centralized in a lot of avenues. We got crown corporations, not viable, not in this mechanism, not in this fashion. Any economist telling you otherwise, or finance minister telling you otherwise, is a bold-faced liar, a double-crosser, a double-speaker, as Americans have always known them to be. Donald J. Trump doesn't roll his eyes for no reason, but he's going to take it because it's going to be a monetary promise from Canada when they don't deliver. They're already 56% of our foreign debt is held by America. That number is going to explode. Explode. Think about it. Our total federal debt over the life of Canada, $2.66 trillion. We're going to be at $3.8 trillion with the finance minister, with throne speech from Charles, King Charles III, who legally in our Constitution has no business in our Parliament. Again, can all look at real history. You can search it right on Google, AI, they'll tell you. Nope, the last one to come was Queen Elizabeth II, 1982. Why? Because they brought an amendment that reduced all of that, restricted all of that forevermore. That's the major of that big amendment in 1982. that they're not to be in our parliament. The UK is not to have any effect in our parliament. But here we go, they're doing it anyway. And then they're going to do this deal. I'm going to give you some other scary thoughts. All Canadians, especially 51st staters, separatists throughout the regions, statehood followers throughout the regions, and these ideas you think you have here. Donald J. Trump's going to take this deal. You saw Saudi Arabia, you saw Qatar. This matches tit for tat, both of them, just in security. A security, not even economic trade. This is security. This is a big one for my B7. As a 51st state, sharing that in the union, well, Canadians don't pay their federal or provincial crowns anymore. They get the federal taxation system as all the other 50 states, and they can manage it in a shared union, a more perfect union, not a crown runaway system. It doesn't work and will not achieve this, not with the bloat of government we have and their historical records of lying and bullshitting. That's no other way to say it. Again, show me a NATO commitment ever made. Way, way lower than that. Can't even make their what would now be short $38 billion a year. That's how short Canada is. $38 billion NATO, NORAD, and military in general on the world stage. And they're going to commit to a $1.2 trillion deal that USA is going to complete before Donald J. Trump's out of office. Meaning, when it comes due, Donald J. Trump's going to have less than 5 months left in office. And effectual months, remember everybody, effectual months, January, from this point right now to January at the end of his term. I mean, how is he going to make Canada the 51st state at that point, rolling over, and then you have a new presidency, a whole new government, and you're starting from scratch again. And folks, just so you know, Canada's huge, massive resources, massive value. Now I hope an overvaluation, inability to secure investment. We've already been dropping our interest rates low. USA hasn't even moved yet. When they do, and they will, you're going to see a flood of manufacturing investment. If you haven't already seen it in Canada, you haven't seen nothing yet. There's nothing to save us. USA is going to boom over the next 3 years, and Canada is going to crash. And then you're going to eat an unbelievable foreign debt. To put it in perspective, Mark Carney and François Philippe Champagne, 4 times the 2008-9 housing financial crisis bank bailout under Stephen Harper. Do you all remember that? You were borrowed a tremendous amount, the largest amount ever recorded in Canadian history, in a snap of a finger. Massive changes to equalization, huge socialism, crushing crown power, sweeping over Canada. This is 4 times that. Can you imagine where all our provinces and regions are going to be? Where's your health transfers going to be? Where's your equalization going to be? Where's your social security going to be? And everybody's social security in Canada is not like USA. This is separate from CPP. This is a socialism concept here, where it's not people who pay into it. It's taken from taxpayers or borrowed against you for people who may have never worked or didn't contribute to their own retirement while they were working. Said, I'll let the government take care of me. These concepts of socialism don't work. This lie, this outrageous, grievous lie, just to stunt us from the B7 that we weren't even allowed into, kept us outside the entrances. Wherever Pete was, they had massive security teams to thwart us, even hiring firefighters and fire trucks to push in and block us, and to the public to think, there's nothing of that. We knew, we saw it on the phone, we saw the undercover, we had the undercovers even come talk to us at the end, and then still try to lie, double cross, double speak. Like I said, nothing I ever experienced in Washington, D.C., nothing in America, all straight shooters. If they don't want you doing something or don't want you there, they're not going to lie, manipulate, go to great lengths. I haven't seen in the United States. And remember, everybody, I was a foreigner. I have Rob Tavoni. He was there at B7. He had more confidence than the others because they're new. They've never experienced the United States. They weren't in Washington. I wish I could do trips like that for people all the time. I wish these things come up. I wish like hell. I know what Donald J. Trump wants. And I know the Americans know. I know they know what we presented there, what I put forward for the best of all of you, just for your betterment, doing the right thing. And I hit the nail on the head, and I know they got it, he's got it, but what are we? What do we have? We're still under the crown. We're a small group. We haven't changed enough Canadians. They gave us an opportunity too, and now they're going with Carney and the bullshit. And like I said, if you didn't see the video today, he's rolling his eyes. He knows it's horseshit. But we'll see. We'll see in those last 6 months of his term where Canada is, where we're all at. I can promise you it's a not good reality for Canada at all. It's outrageous. It's grievous that what Mark Carney and Philippe, or François Philippe Champagne has done and did. They had no presentation at the B7, stuffing all their faces on food. No presentation, nothing for the ambassador or Donald J. Trump or the Americans. We brought that, not only for the Americans, we brought it for everybody, and we gave it to France. At least for sure it got through to France, and they were on the horn with it. It's just like NATO. When I went to Washington, D.C., me and Rob, we go into NATO. I gave them a presentation honoring George Washington, the whole month celebration, low-key, that so many allies have forgotten for decades. That we came there and we said, hey, this is what it's about. This is what we're going to do. This is our gift to the United States. And you know what? That goes a long way. When they go, you know what? With no funding, no nothing, these guys come here, they hit the nail on the head, just like we hit the nail on the head with this. Now, it was Iron Dome, now it's Golden Dome, but Donald J. Trump knows. He knows Canada can't deliver. They've never delivered. And America's going to call them out this time. That's a fact. We're not even talking trade. This is security. Now, I've got a whole economic, I've got a whole Arctic presentation that Canada's never, ever going to live up to. Not as the country it is and the system it is, but they're going to lie. They're going to lie to this fella. They're going to lie to all Americans, as they always do. But the Americans know. It's just a matter of how many years can they destroy us, whip the hell out of the slaves, because that's what's going to happen, Canadians. I don't do this for any other reason. This is the best choice going forward for this country, and anything else is a lie and a deny, and a continue on. Well, if we just keep doing what we've been doing that hasn't been working, it's been failing for almost 25 years, extremely bad, and Canadians should feel that the generational suffrage and the lack of and have for the generations of today, and my daughters, not only my son, who's a different generation. When you look at millennial and then you look at this new Z generation, what do my daughters really have? And I meet people like, oh, my kid's in school for engineering and doctor. And not everybody can be an engineer or a doctor. Not everybody can be a tradesman. You always have to measure society on its lowest. Who's got it at the lowest? That's the measurement of society. And that's what I do with America. Like I said, a guy who pumps gas full time his whole life in the United States of America, minimum wage, if he sticks with that in their version of old age security that man contributed to, is $1,900 USD a month. Now, he marries another woman who works at the dollar store, and she works faithfully every day of her life. And they don't have a lot. They're probably living in a small condo. Maybe they got a shared car, a used car, and they routinely do that, right? That's their life. That's the minimum life. And together, they're retiring today. If they both worked and they're both hitting 65 in the United States, they're looking at $3,800 between the two of them. I can tell you in Canada, you're lucky to find a couple with $1,400. They got to rely on socialism because they were never a factor. We can even go well above that, in fact. We can go up to people making $35 an hour, and in their CPPs, if they don't have a private, they're at $900 a month each. That ain't going to cut it. That ain't even remotely close to minimum standard of living. That's why Canada comes into socialist old age security trying to match America, but it's 100% socialism, meaning it's taken from those who work, not those who don't work. Those people, or those irresponsible people, because there's no accountability. And then, of course, those people vote for the kind of people like Mark Carney and Champagne, who are running another big scam, a big lie. But this one is off the charts. This Golden Dome scam is off the charts. There is no way, shape, or form Canada can pay for that without beating the living shit out of the working people of Canada beyond any measure ever before. Again, the cost and the debt loading placed upon you in the 2008-9 bailout, this is 4 times that. 4 times that for Canadians. Big shots, big shot liberals who shoot their mouth off, who couldn't even, at 20 times less than that, even make an annual commitment on anything. 20 times less than. In fact, it's always been the other way. Same with the Conservatives. Great big liars. And this isn't going to be any different. We're in a lot of trouble. This is irreparable damage. And now I want to kind of take a little swing of this another way. So let's say they beat the hell out of us. Our lives are irrevocably changed. We don't get any freedom. The Crown's reigning supreme. Rents are triple what they are today. You get used to living multi-family, single-unit dwelling, or renting throughout all of Canada. You're renting a small room in a place with 6, 7 other folks. A home designed for 4, right? Comfortably strangers. And this is the standard way of Canada now, going forward. And you know, you get pissed off, the generation of tomorrow, my daughter's generation, and the generation after Z, the kids, that would be my grandkids coming along down the future. I'm retired now, suffering out like everybody else. And the people try to resist. Does Canada control that side of the Iron Dome? Do they turn it on their own people? Do we become, like in Israel, the Palestinians? Do Canadians subjects, unlike Americans, do we become Palestinians? Is that what's going to happen? Indians are completely wiped out if they even remotely try anything. Is that what Canada's going to be capable of doing? Oh, they were terrorist threats. They were terrorist cells. Yes, USA, we had to activate the system in Canada to kill these people because they were terrorists. Is that how it's going to go? Because I have never seen a history of the Crown behaving in any other way. If they can, they will. In all of Canadians' history, much, much, much more darker than America's system. People run Donald J. Trump down. I think he's a beautiful, brilliant man. He's probably the best president I've seen in my lifetime. I've read history of great presidents, but living presidents in my time, effectual presidents, magical, wonderful things that you would never, ever think even possible are right in our face, and we're cutting edge on it. And yet here comes an evil disease system stealing from you. No credit, cashing in on your chips in absolutely a bullshit scenario because they couldn't even come up with self, because they hate this guy. They hate everything about him. They hate everything about Americans. They'll lie to Americans, never straight on anything. They never have been. It only gets worse as time goes on. It's the same way for us, the Canadian subjects, the First Nations, the Canadian Indian peoples. And what will they do if they have control of that technology? How will they spin that in the media going forward? We're all watching the media change harshly and worsely in this electoral autocracy that's soon to be an autocratic dictatorship, a real, possibly military one, especially if they have access to a Golden Dome, what I articulated as the Iron Dome What will be our future? This is scary. Scary for my children, the grandchildren to come. What will Canada be then? And I don't think Americans can appreciate that. I don't think they can see that. I don't think, you know. And Donald J. Trump's going forward with this for America. Absolutely. But the reality is, what is Canada going to do? Where are they going to go, and what's going to happen to us? Because unless Canada is released, First Peoples are rectified like the American Indians, and then Americans released into these frontiers. And I mean, it's 2025. It doesn't have to be remotely like the Wild West. It doesn't even have to be like that. We have GPS, we have technologies, we have Space Force. There's so many brilliant, beautiful things the imposed American system can do for Canada as Canada, the 51st state. But if Canada continues another decade and a half, what atrocities are going to be committed? What is it America's going to see happen as they're getting ripped off? And I mean, really, Americans, you've been ripped off by the Canadian crown just as bad, if not worse, than the Canadian subjects. Maybe not brutalized. It's like Operation Warp Speed. And a lot of Canadians don't get this, especially in the Freedom Folks division, right? There was never forced vaccinations in the United States, not for the mass majority. Now, federal government and Joe Biden's transition absolutely was forced. But 85% of Americans wanted that vaccine, volunteered for it, asked for it. I hate to say that. You can go look at the stats. I released that years ago. It was opposite for Canada. It was totally opposite because our health system's completely opposite of that of the United States. And our crown is absolute. They say you do. Police operate to that. The system operates to that. Judicial, legislative, and executive are fused. Fused with who? Prime Minister. And if you think for any second of any day that the premiers are any different than this, they're not. In fact, they're worse. There's no constitution regulating them at all. At all. And USA is the one, as I've been saying for days now, and I presented massive presentations on this, but that immigration, that terrorism that the FBI is talking about, that's from the provincial crowns. They've made tons of money. 3 key provinces, Quebec, BC, Alberta. And they have a good scam system to do that. They don't give two shits about America or Americans. Never have. These people are sick. They live in a superior belief system where they're top of the pyramid. Americans are down here with us in their minds. And it's gross. But folks, this is my video. I'm going to cut some slides and show you if you've never seen my presentation. I'm going to show it to you now for those who still haven't seen it. So this, I say, is breaking news, and it was all taken from our B7 summit. And you'll not find any CPAC or anybody who presented anything about the Golden Dome. It's all from me. And there it is there, May 16th. Never say never. I did that, and you can look at my presentation. But like Donald Trump said today, and like I said, this is now updated all in the news today, I guess 2 hours ago now. But Canada wants to join Golden Dome Missile Defense Program, Trump says. And if you look at my presentation and my works on this, you'll know it's $1.2 trillion for Canada. Now, that wouldn't be the cost as the 51st state, because we would be shared out at the state level, and then it becomes viable. We pool all of our federal taxes, not take half the cost of the entire system. Because Canada, and it's more than half Canadians, because we're more than half of North America. We're much larger than the United States. And Trump, you watch the video, he tells you as he rolls his eyes, yeah, Canada again. And they know it's bullshit. They know. He said 3 years. We're going to have it done in 3 years. And you better buck up. So I don't know how we're going to buck up, Canadians. If you think for 40 million people that $1.2 trillion is a joke, you're out to lunch. You're out to lunch. You are some kind of incredible idiot. It's the equivalent of a person saying, oh yeah, no problem, I can pay $1 million. And it's like me. and I'm a welder. Oh, how long am I going to live? Till I'm 1,000 years old? Because I'm not going to be able to borrow and pay back $1 million in 3 years in my wages. Or even if it was 30 years, it would never happen. No bank would borrow me that money. But don't worry, everybody. The crown will borrow it against you. They'll beat the hell out of you, right? They'll beat the hell out of you, the subjects. You can kiss all of your social programs goodbye. Anyone telling you otherwise is a liar, an epic scale liar. I'll put it in perspective. For Americans watching this, can you imagine if any president of the United States said, hey, we're doing a golden dome, we're going to borrow $12 trillion and have it done in 3 years? You would all tell him to shove it right up there, you know what. There's no Congress and Senate that would ever approve that because Americans could never afford it. Think about it. Americans sitting here right now today after recent approval of borrowings, and they're trying to get up to that $38 trillion, whatever. But imagine Trump or Biden or anybody saying, yeah, we're just going to borrow 12, 13 billion. That's the equivalency here. Can you imagine the uproar of Americans, let alone the uproar of Congress and Senate? It would never even get approved. If a president came forward and said, give me 12, 13, 14 trillion dollars, and they're like, that's 1/3 of what we owe already. We can't afford, we're way in the red here, bub. He said, oh yeah, no, hey, just 12, 13 trillion, and in 3 years we'll be protected. They tell you to shove it. Now that's not how it is for America. It's $1 trillion. It's part of this package. It's reasonable for America. Now on their own, it's 2 trillion. It's, like I said, for Canadian money to American money, it's 1.2 our side of this. Excuse me, 1.2 trillion. But imagine a president doing that to Americans. It would be like high heaven. Americans would go crazy. You want to borrow 25% of everything we owe right now, and you're in the extreme red? We're bankrupt. Well, that's the lie Mark Carney and Champagne have sold Donald J. Trump. How many years do you think this security deal that matches mine is 51st state that's not achievable as Canada? How long can their lie go, right? How long can it go? Or worse, they borrow against all of us an extreme rate. Our inflation goes through the roof. Massive unemployment coming. That's clear. We're not tit for tat on any economics with USA or global trade. That's all a lie. Everything Alberta tells you, we're already cut off. We're cut off from all those countries. Those countries are going to make a deal with the United States long before they make a deal with Canada. No, sorry, they're going to say no, and they already are. We're with Canada, or we're with USA. We're with USA. They're not going to say screw USA for Canada. It's asses in the air, not elbows up. That's how it's always been. And you're watching it roll out. Professional liars, all politicians. Doesn't matter which one you elect. Some are better at lying than others. America knows it. Trump articulated that today. That's my video, folks. It's up to you to share it. Get it out there. This is a critical video. It's also critical for Americans to know, for my American followers. This is critical for you to know too. And like I said, Trump's doing what Canada said they're going to do, so he's going to go forward with that, right? You break your word, we're going to break your ass, right? That's a big system. Americans aren't going to tolerate Canada defaulting on a $1.2 trillion agreement over 3 years. Think about that. This is an insane amount of money. Americans would never even believe it to be true. They wouldn't even let a president go forward with it again. No Congress or Senate would ever allow a 12, 13, 14 trillion dollar deal or 1/3 of the total U.S. debt. They'd say, go to hell. That's not viable. That'll destroy America. That's my video. It's up to you. You're the people. We're the group. It's your sharing. It's your getting the video out there. Educate as many as you can. Like I said, I go through this with our filthy fucking government. Everything I work on and do, credible, real, verifiable, and then you get a lying, disingenuous, double talk, double speak, shit apple crown. And I can see why Americans, the War of Independence, I can see why it rages me every day of my life. And all I pray is that today, did I wake up a few thousand more? Did I wake up a few thousand more? That's what we need to do. We need to do it quicker. God bless everybody. Love you all. Bye now.